Hey guys, this is Jaleesa and welcome to Jaleesa Unfiltered. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to just hop on here really quick and do a quick video about this Jess Hilarious situation that has gone viral ever since she went live and just kind of aired out how she felt about her time at the Breakfast Club and their response to it on the air this morning. So I just kind of want to give my 2 cents, my opinion, not fact, just something that I have actually been thinking about for a while. And yeah, I wish I would have talked about it a few weeks back when I was just, observing because I'm a fan of Jess. I've been a fan of Jess for a very, very long time when she started Jess with the Mess on Instagram. So, yeah. But before we get into it, I would love if you guys would please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss any future uploads. And also, if you are feeling my content, if you like my commentary, if you like what your girl got to say, please hit that like button, okay? Give me a thumbs up. Fool the algorithm for me. Comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. Let me know as I go through this commentary if you agree or you disagree with me. And it's okay if you disagree. I understand. We don't always have to be on the same page, you know? Yeah. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Do all that good stuff. Hook your girl up. All right. Help me to get to 1,000 subscribers. Y'all see, I'm pretty close. I'm at 940. Just 60 more, and I get to 1,000. And I would really appreciate you guys if you subscribe to my channel. Like I would, like from the bottom of my heart, and I would give you a big fat kiss virtually, of course. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get into why I'm really here. Okay. So, a few weeks back, I remember having a conversation with my husband. And look, I'm gonna have a lot of conversations with my husband. He's damn near my only friend. But I'm hoping to make some friends with you guys here on the internet. But so I can have these conversations with somebody else other than my husband. You feel me? So yeah, so all my internet cousins out there, let's link up and talk. But anyway, so I was having a conversation with my husband about Jess Hilarious because my husband is from Baltimore. And so is Jess. So I've been a fan of Jess for, years, literally years. And I've been there in her highs and lows. I've been around when she faced a lot of backlash and, a lot of her jokes and commentary that she may have made that, that may have offended people that, they found as maybe tasteless or whatever. I've seen her grow into a stand-up comedian and then, getting her role on the Breakfast Club and then it becoming a permanent role and then seeing her become a mother again and seeing the whole thing that went down when, the girl Loren Lerosa replaced her and all that stuff, So I've been paying attention. Now, I do not religiously watch the Breakfast Club. That stopped years ago, years even before Jess started doing it. Like I stopped before Angela Yee left, and I definitely stopped once she left the Breakfast Club. But anyway, so I'm no fan of the Breakfast Club. I watch interviews of people that I may want to see, or like if I see a clip scrolling through social media, I'll take a look. So, and so I guess I might be a little biased to Jess a little bit, but two things could be true at one time. And I see a lot of people that are not taking Jess' side. They feel like Jess is being, combative and she's not taking the situation very well. They feel like she's being really insecure about things that are happening and, feels threatened by the girl Loren and all that stuff. And so I'm going to get into it a little bit and just give my commentary, give my 2 cents on what I got to say. Okay. So, like I said, I noticed I was really happy for Jess when I found out that she got the Breakfast Club position permanently. She was on there for a while hosting, I don't know if it was like maybe a trial run or whatever, but she did her thing. And yeah, so she ended up getting the position, permanently. And I was really excited for her. But even that transition from her just being there like part time, I would call it, to becoming a contract, employee there, it was a little strange. I don't know if you guys remember like how it all went down. Like people, I don't know if it was like on purpose they did that, but I remember it was like people weren't sure. They were like, yeah, she's going to get it. But then it was like, nah, she wasn't going to get it. And it was just even her transitioning to becoming a permanent host, it was a bit of a controversy. And maybe it was, intentional controversy to kind of throw people off because maybe it wasn't supposed to come out as soon as it did. Maybe that information wasn't supposed to be announced as soon as it did. You know what I mean? But even from there, I just thought things were a little iffy. And then Jess got on there, and, not too long after getting her start permanently, she got pregnant and she had to, or maybe she was already pregnant, I'm not sure, but she ended up going on maternity leave. And according to Jess, she picked the producer, Loren Lerosa, to be her replacement while she was on maternity leave. Okay. And I watched a few clips of interviews that Loren did while Jess was out. And Loren has a really great speaking and radio voice. She does. She just has that thing to be on radio. And I I remember feeling like, ooh, is this gonna cause some type of issue? And not saying that Jess doesn't have it, but I remember when she was first starting out on the Breakfast Club, how her accent, which they equate that to her speech, and her reading wasn't necessarily up to par for the kind of segment that she wanted to do, or that would have been suitable for radio. Radio and recording for the internet are two very different things. Radio is live and you have to be ready. You have to be well spoken. You have to know how to read in a certain way, not just read, because everybody, or most people, can read, but you have to know how to read that script, read the news, and still be engaging where it's not as though you're reading, but you're conversating and you're telling the story, but at the same time, you're reading the news. So Jess struggled with that. And she was very transparent about it in the very beginning. So when I saw Loren come on and she just had that, obviously that's why she was hired as a producer. I wondered if, Jess may have felt like threatened a little bit. I mean, it's just human nature when you see somebody in your position, and not saying that she was doing a better job, but she was doing a great job. Like, I always wondered if Jess was concerned about what the dynamics was going to be like when she returned from maternity leave. So I remember seeing when she returned from maternity leave, a few months after having her beautiful baby girl. And like she said in her back and forth and talking about her experiences at the Breakfast Club, either in her live or addressing it after, she said when she got back, Loren started initially when they interacted with each other, she addressed things that people were saying in the comments and saying that people were trying to, pin them against each other and saying who is better, who is this, then, and the third. And she wanted to address that and let Jess know that, that's not what it's about. She just wants to clear the air. It's no competition between them, all that. And like Jess thought, in my head, I thought the same thing. I'm like, well, if she's a replacement and Jess is back now, like, why is she on air still, right? Like, why is she still here? Are they considering adding her to the panel as a fourth co-hosts? Are they considering giving Jess's segment to her, you know? Because I know they couldn't just let Jess go. She's, when coming on to something like that permanently, obviously she has a contract. And not only would Jess have to uphold her end of the contract, so will the Breakfast Club or the owners of the Breakfast Club. They will have to, they can't just fire her unless there's something in the contract that states otherwise. So I didn't think that she was necessarily going to replace Jess right away, but it was a little, I felt the tension, and I'm not even at the Breakfast Club, you know, and I don't even watch it all the time, but I have followed Jess long enough to kind of, I don't want to say I know her. I don't know her at all personally, but just knowing her based off the internet, you know? So, and it was kind of weird. I'm like, why is she addressing that? Like, I wonder if she felt like Jess would have a problem. Like something, when it's like they were trying to get ahead of something. You know what I mean? And I feel like Jess saw that, but she kept her cool because it's like, you know, maybe she thought like I just got back, maybe I'm tripping. Let's see how things play out. And I feel like once Jess started to notice that Loren wasn't going anywhere after her maternity leave and she would only come on her section, I do believe that it made Jess a tad bit insecure. And when I say that, I'm not saying insecure because of how Loren is as a whole woman, as a whole person, versus Jess as a woman and a whole person, but as a radio personality and how well she does the job as a radio host with her reading, you know, with her delivery of the news segment and, you know, whatever other segments they do on the show. And she takes part in that. She has that radio personality quality that is undeniable. Loren Lerosa does. And Jess saw that. And I think it just, because of Jess's innate insecurity that she had with herself prior to Loren, okay? Because you can go back and watch some of the older Breakfast Club interviews with Jess, or when she was starting out, and even Charlemagne, you know, making fun of her for how she read and in her accent and things like that. And Jess, you know, she did her due diligence to do what she needed to do behind the scenes to get her to a point where she was comfortable reading on air and reading well on air. So I don't think the insecurity is coming from just Loren as a whole individual. I just think it's the skill set that Loren may have versus what Jess has. And that's where I think it is. I don't think that she is jealous of Loren in any type of way. I don't think so. But I do think you have to put yourself in a position, and everybody's human in this situation. And when emotions get involved, it can take things to a whole other level. And a lot of people was mentioning, you know, just going through postpartum and things like that. And while that may be a factor, I don't know if it is the whole reason why she's feeling some type of way. I really do think it's how things got handled after she returned. And maybe she had one impression of how this thing would go versus how it started to go and what she was seeing in front of her eyes. It's like, you have to remember, like in any job setting, you have bosses that will tell you exactly what you want to hear to keep you quiet, to keep you where they want you to be, while whole time behind the scenes, they're doing something completely different than what they told you. Okay. And that happens in any level of employment. And I feel like that's what Jess was feeling. She was feeling like she is being played, and they playing in her face. They telling her one thing, but it's another. They pissing on her head and calling it rain. Okay. I feel like that's how Jess felt. Like, y'all tell me what's really happening instead of things just happening, and now I'm confused. I'm not getting real answers. And there's people, our audience in the comment section, that's saying these things about me, And I don't feel like anybody is coming to my defense to debunk these rumors, debunk these things that these people are saying about me. Y'all just letting it happen. And I feel like that was very frustrating for her, especially how much time and energy she dedicated into wanting to be a host on The Breakfast Club. That was a big deal coming from someone that started off as a internet personality and influencer. She worked very hard. It's not easy to get to that point, you know? So I feel for Jess, but at the same time, I have to say that this industry, that industry is not forgiven. They really don't care about you as a person. They will pretend to. It's like when you run into an old friend from high school or something, or an old coworker, you know, and y'all be like, "Oh yeah, hey, how you doing?" And this, that, and the third. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, we gotta link up, we gotta hang out, blah, blah, blah. You this, that, and the third." And then they really don't mean that. They don't mean it like at all. It was just talk. It's not real, you know? And one thing I know about people from Baltimore City is that they're big on loyalty, you know, and Jess is big on loyalty. She reminds me a lot of how my husband interacts with people and how he interacts with certain situations. Like, they're big on loyalty. They're big on, if you say something, you got to stand on your word. Don't, and they don't like being played either. You know what I mean? Like, just be straight up, say what it is, you know, let's get to the bottom of it, you know? And so I can understand where Jess is coming from 110%. But what I was getting at is that Jess has to see the play that's happening in front of her. They know who Jess is. They know who she is as a person. And they know what these companies can study you. They see the ins and outs of you sometimes. And they know what will tick you off. They know what will send you over the edge. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, okay? This is not fact. This is my opinion. I feel like this whole thing could have been started by people above the hosts, people behind the scenes, to get Jess to do exactly what she did on her live last night. And coming off as if though she's crashing out and she's an angry, bitter, jealous person, and that Loren is this classy, well put together, you know, I don't want any drama type of individual, to create a narrative in order to get Jess to do what she did. So if there ever is some type of conflict, it just does do something that could possibly jeopardize her position at the Breakfast Club. They already have someone in place that can take over for her. I've seen it in regular everyday jobs, you know, in corporate structures, you know, they will do that. And you have to be careful that you are not falling into the trap that they're laying for you. You know, they're doing stuff just to get under your skin, and then they're going to turn around and gaslight you. Because I do feel like Envy and, you know, Charlemagne and even Loren, they were gaslighting her a little bit and making it seem like they were trying to do everything they could to make her understand, to make her feel comfortable. It's like, why are y'all even doing that? And she's the host. Loren was her replacement for maternity leave. It's like when you go on maternity leave at a job and they hire a temporary employee to take your position. Once you come back, that temp either leaves or they put them in another position. And when that wasn't happening with Loren, Jess had some questions that needed to be answered, and they weren't getting answered. She wasn't getting what she needed. She was getting the runaround, and that made her mad. And it made her, and I'm pretty sure whatever meeting they had that day, when she said they were talking about, like, you know, restructuring or whatever the case may be, it probably ticked her off, whatever was talked about in that meeting, she held on to it. And in her life, she had to, get it out. And the part that I also found very interesting in her life is when she mentioned Angela Yee. And I told my husband that I said, Angela Yee had the same issue, a similar issue with DJ Envy and Charlemagne not being there to, protect her reputation or stand up for her when certain people would say certain things about her. I remember her having some sort of dialogue with the both of them about how they handle certain situations surrounding her. And as long as they all been co-hosts, it was like, why aren't y'all, standing up for me or at least protecting my reputation or looking out for me the way that I will look out for y'all? So I found it very interesting that Jess mentioned Angela Yee and said, she went crazy. It was a reason why she did, leave the show and this, that, and the third. And I don't think they like that, especially Envy. Like, I think a lot of things Jess said ticked them off, but that was definitely one of them because Envy saying he's not bothered by what people say about him. He don't care, but you were bothered, Envy. You were definitely bothered. And Charlemagne just don't take anything seriously because he's Charlemagne. I don't think he really cares. He pretends like he cares about people, but he doesn't really care. Whatever happens with Jess is not going to affect him at all. He doesn't care. That's why he was to me, he was very dismissive of the things Jess was saying and was really trying to squash whatever she was saying. Let's move on to something else. All right. Yeah. Whatever. We'll all get along. We'll work this out. They didn't want Jess airing that stuff out. And of course, it's the Breakfast Club. They're messy. That's what they're known for. So Jess coming on air to talk about it was right up their alley. They know it was going to help with ratings and whatever. But do I really believe that they actually care about Jess's feelings? And no, I don't. I really don't. And I hope Jess knows that. Like, they don't care, girl. Honestly, get your bag, do what you need to do, and don't let them folks talk you out of. I mean, I don't know if she's going to see this or not, but I won't let them people get me out of, and I'm not saying out of character because Jess is not wrong for saying how she felt, for bringing this to the forefront, because maybe behind the scenes, she wasn't getting the answer she was looking for. And they were, you know, spinning her around in circles and just confusing her. And, she finally got to the point where she was sick of it. And she talked about it being run like a high school. And that is most institutions where adults work. I'm telling you, it's like high school prepares you for working with adults, because it's like no job that I have went to has honestly ever had a fully mature group of people. You find one or two mature people within that group, but most of the people acted like they were in high school. That's everywhere. And that's what I've learned. You can't let people play you out of position. And, I have gone through something similar, in my own experiences with work and working for someone. And, I remember people knew me. I can relate to, because I don't like don't play with me. don't play with me. Don't tell me that it's, rain the whole time you pissing on my head. Don't do that to me. Don't little girl me. I'm not stupid. I used to hate when people think that I was stupid and trying to talk to me and put me in situations where I knew, wait, hold up, So I get where Jess is coming from, but they bank on that. They bank on it. They bank on you crashing out. And I've crashed out at jobs a few times. I have went off a few times. It's like, who y'all playing with? But in the end, I was young. It was me that may have suffered the consequences from quitting my job without having something lined up, while the company continued to go on and they just replaced me with somebody else. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to be careful in some sense. And I know it's easier said than done when you feel like your dignity and your integrity and your reputation is on the line. But man, one thing you got to do is learn how to play the game. You got to learn how to play the game. And Jess already know these people are not her friends, okay? I don't think she thinks these people really care about her on that level. I know that they probably care about her professionally, but you know, I don't think they care. I do think this whole situation was a setup, I do. And yeah, Jess was hurt, and I don't think she was hurt for no reason. I think her reasons are very valid, but I feel like this is what they wanted. I feel like they kept that girl, Loren, let me not say that, but they kept Loren on the segment just to make Jess mad. I could be wrong. I could be so wrong, but that's just the vibes I'm getting. And they're painting this picture of Jess as this bitter, angry woman, employee, disgruntled employee that is taking, workplace issues out to the public where it could be discussed behind closed doors, and painting the picture of Loren as this classy and gracious individual that's being picked on by Jess, and Loren didn't do anything. And she may not have. Sometimes people are pawns and they don't even know they're being used as a pawn. They don't know. They have no clue until they realize, like, oh, wait a minute, they were using me to do this to her. So I'm not saying that, Loren is with the whole thing, but she's just doing her job and doing what these people, whoever is behind the scenes and running the show from behind the scenes, is telling her to do. I don't think it's personal between her and Jess. I don't even think Jess' issue with Loren is personal. I don't. And maybe at first it was because she admitted that. But she also then said that eventually she started to realize that it wasn't even really Loren that was moving the pieces. It was whoever was in charge was the one moving the pieces. And she realized what was happening, and it got to her. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents on the Jess Hilarious and the Breakfast Club situation. I really wish Jess the best. Jess with the mess is always hilarious. Is always, Jess Hilarious. I think she is so funny. I think she has so much talent that, she really doesn't need the Breakfast Club. I wish these content creators could see that while it's a great accomplishment, that they don't need these big conglomerates to be successful. But I knew getting on the Breakfast Club was something that was really important to Jess. Culturally, critically acclaimed show. Why not? It solidified her in the industry. And she has had a lot of different gigs within the industry prior to that, but becoming a permanent host was a great opportunity. So, I never want to take away that it's not a great thing to be on the Breakfast Club, but that show always been messy and they thrive on drama. And when you take what you're doing serious and you have a family behind you that you gotta also help to support and support yourself, and like I said, like Jess said, she doesn't need the Breakfast Club. She wanted to be on the Breakfast Club. And I believe that. I do. And another thing I wanted to touch on really quick, she talked about her getting pregnant thing. And I guess some people were probably saying like it was a wrong time for her to get pregnant. That's a touchy subject. I won't say that it was the wrong time for her, but we know how some career oriented men and women think, especially when it comes to having children. And even if you do have children, they might want you to carry it a certain way, you know? They might want you to not put your child first. They want you to put the job and the company's interests before you or your family. They do. And when they don't have those kind of people, um, it rubs them the wrong way, especially in that industry. I don't think they celebrate family and in the way we believe that they do. I don't think they really care for the family structure, especially a mother wanting to be a mother and wanting to have a child and having to give out maternity leave and doing all of that. Like, no, I don't think they was really for that. And it's none of their business, really. Jess could do what she wants. But that could have maybe put a sour taste in their mouth that she got, that, she was pregnant and had to take maternity leave soon after getting hired permanently on the Breakfast Club. Yeah, you'll be surprised. Like, they don't really, in my opinion, they don't really like the family structure and that whole idea of that. That's just my 2 cents on it. I could be dead wrong. But I also thought about that. Like, maybe that was just, that put a sour taste in their mouth, that just, you know, had a baby and had to go on maternity leave soon after, you know, that happened. And like Jess said, she wanted to have a baby, and the timing that she wanted to have a baby was then. So, yeah. So I just wanted to touch on that really quick too, and just put my 2 cents on that. You guys let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that I'm saying in the comments. What were your thoughts when you saw Jess's live and when you heard her address it this morning on the Breakfast Club, and Loren and Lauren's response to Jess? And yeah, let me know down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys for watching this video and taking the time out to listen to my commentary. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl Jaleesa, and this is Jaleesa Unfiltered. I love y'all. Talk to y'all next time.